Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Writing Laboratory, where I collaborate with the Iowa Lakeside Lab and we share a creative writing prompt, some advice, some encouragement, and some hopefully beautiful, nourishing, inspirational pieces of writing. So, last week we touched upon the beauty in the mundane. We talked about how no matter who you are, there is always something you can write about. No matter what kind of life you have, your life offers you so much to mine from. When a writer does this, they give the reader an incredible gift. They help the reader see themselves and their lives in the pages and minds and words of somebody else. They help the reader see themselves cast in a new, more forgiving light often. My favorite thing about reading is that particular moment of self recognition. Well, one of my favorite things. Um, Looking at a page, looking at somebody else's words, and going, oof, that's it. That's exactly how life is, articulated so beautifully. I've always known that life is exactly like this, but I just didn't have the language for it, and now I do. This is something that people tend to love about all writing, no matter what genre it is, whether it's fiction, whether it's non-fiction, whether it's poetry. Let's take fantastical fiction, for example, science fiction, speculative fiction, fantasy. Readers love those fantastical elements that allow them to escape only if the characters' desires, experiences, and needs are relatable. Only if within the magical, within the extraordinary, within those worlds that are so different from ours, they can feel something that is relatable, that is specific and universal enough to be relatable. Let's think about, for example, the Harry Potter books. The Harry Potter books are so loved. Yes, because of the magic, because of the spells, because of the excellent world building, but also because we can relate to the children, right? Because we can relate to their very, very well crafted loneliness, companionship, their desire for love, their desire for acceptance, their deep, deep bonds with each other, them growing into bravery and strength, them fighting to become brave. So, because we relate to those elements, we can really, really buy into and enjoy the magical. Let's look at another genre. Let's think about poetry, because this is true for poetry too. Um, Percy Shelley, for example, lived on a different continent from me, centuries apart from me. I have very little in common with him. But just the other day, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I remembered one of Shelley's poems that I had not read since I was a child. And the reason is this: Iowa was hit by this terrible, terrible storm, right? The derecho. And I just walked around outside after, taking in the destruction. And I was shocked at the damage. I was also shocked at looking at the trees. It was like I was seeing them for the first time, especially those old, strong, gnarled trees. The ones that fell, but also the ones that had survived the damage. I'm going to read a small part of Shelley's poem, The Recollection, to you. He says, "We paused amid the pines that stood, the giants of the waste, tortured by storms to shape as rude as serpents interlaced." Now, Shelley was simply writing about the world around him, but the way he described these trees added drama, tension, and emotional resonance. He made these contrasts. He did it in such a unique way. So 20 years after I read this poem, as I looked at these tortured, battered trees, I remembered Shelley, and I was grateful to have language for what I was looking at. Nonfiction does this too. Here's another piece that makes the daily, what some might call the mundane, what some might think of as very ordinary, extremely vibrant and extremely vivid. This is from What I Do by Eri Akers. I'm going to read it to you. Again, just sections. What I do. I drive on country roads where kangaroo rats shoot across blacktop and leap into the bushes, where feral cats streak through fields and cows lift their heads at the sound of the car but don't stop chewing, where the horses' manes blow in the wind and the cheatgrass blows. I'll stop there a second. She could have simply said, I drive home on country roads. Not much happens. There are some critters. Some of them are cats. But instead, she gives us this feast of senses. She brings the critters, she brings the cats and the cows and those country roads really, really alive. Then she goes on. She gives us a sense of herself and what makes her human. One of the things that makes her human, which are her fears. She says, I cook, I shell peas, breaking open the pods at the veins with a snap. I take vitamins, all the hard football-shaped pills. Sometimes they get stuck in my gullet and I panic and think, what a modern way to die. They'll come and find my dead, perfectly healthy body. Who hasn't felt a fear like this one? Who hasn't contended with death in this particular way? And who hasn't done something as mundane but also so deeply involved in the senses as shelling peas, breaking open the pods? Next, she shows us more of who she is. This time a different side of her. So she says, I pick up spiders in my house, sliding a cup over them and a piece of paper under them, toss them and watch them sail out the window. I catch moths the same way, open the latch with one hand and watch them come back and bumble against the glass, wanting in the light. Beautiful. She shows us not only that she is compassionate, but she could have just said that. She could have just said, I'm kind to all creatures, including little ones. But instead, she describes the ways in which she's compassionate. And she also creates this kinship, this sisterhood with a creature like the moth. Because like us, the moth too is driven by wanting. Finally, she describes her larger home, which is our planet. This one's a simpler, shorter, and in some ways more impactful little section. She says, sometimes I listen to the earth. It has a sound deep inside the garnets churning. So, this is why we have spent so much time in the prompts that we've done so far, working on sensory details, working on fleshing out things, using the eyes, the ears, the taste buds, our sense of touch. Why we've been describing things this way in so many of the prompts, because doing so is how you make the ordinary dream fully in its magic and its power. So today I want to encourage you again to really, really own and really, really praise and sing and mourn and flesh out the ordinary, the mundane, all those beautiful, small, gorgeous details of your own life and of your own surroundings. What I want you to do is, though, describe your own world as only you would. Not the way other people would, not the way other books would, not the way you think you should, but the way only you would if you were writing or speaking completely authentically and freely. And so, to help us do this, let's do a prompt. Set a 7-minute timer, grab a notebook and a pen. Here's your prompt for the day. Write about something that you think is fascinating, beautiful, interesting, strange, just something that grabs your attention, that holds it. It must be something that you think is interesting, but that others do not, and wouldn't give a second glance to. So for 7 minutes, write about this thing with full sensory detail. Write about it the way only you would. Again, don't judge yourself. There are no rules. Follow this as closely or loosely as you want. The only important thing is that you don't stop writing while the timer is going. All right. And let's begin. That's our timer. Thank you so much for writing with me, for reading with me, for being patient with me as we work to have a more soundproof space for me to record in. I'm really glad, though, that I get to demonstrate to you that you can write anywhere and we can build community anywhere, even in these challenging times. Um, Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Let me know if there are any topics in particular you would like me to cover. I have many, many exciting things planned for the future, but I'm always happy to hear from you and hear what would really help you. Have a wonderful week, and bye.